Last night, the NBA debuted for the first time on NBC in 23 years. This debut was hyped. Everybody was excited about it, especially all of us people who grew up during the 90s watching the NBA on NBC. Definitely had a strong nostalgia effect. I'm not going to lie. That was, to me, that was like the buildup. It was more so just seeing the NBA on NBC last night. That was a big deal for me than even watching the actual games. As weird as it sounds, it's just, you find things from your childhood precious, special. It takes you back to, I would say, a happier time for most people when you view the world in just a different way. So nostalgia has a powerful effect for sure. And just hearing that music last night, the NBA on NBC music was magical. It was great. It was a great feeling to experience just to see it was back. I was I was hyped about it, but outside of just it coming back to NBC was the hype of the Michael Jordan interview that we were hearing about this for like weeks, that Michael Jordan was going to have this big role with NBC in which he's going to be a contributor, and it's going to be something special for the fans to really enjoy. And I was like, all right, I'm pumped for this. What is this going to be? Is he going to be a guy who interviews players, kind of like how Dr. J did it on NBC during the 90s, where he has these sit downs, these one-on-ones? If that's the case, I'm looking forward to this. This could be exciting. Can you imagine if he interviews the current stars like Anthony Edwards? What that would be like? How entertaining that would be? Him interviewing Luka Doncic, him interviewing Jokic, him interviewing Victor, him interviewing just looking at the other side of the Eastern Conference. I'm just thinking Jalen Brunson or Cat or just any of these guys. Like I was just like, yeah, this would be awesome. Like even like the second tier stars like Donovan Mitchell, him having a sit down about like Cleveland's choke jobs. I was just imagining all these scenarios in my mind and thinking like, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be awesome to hear him talk to these guys one on one and his perspectives on all these guys, like in the studio, like we got to see during the 90s when we would see guys like Bill Walton, Dr. J talk about the current NBA crop. And I was thinking, all right, this is going to be Jordan's turn to do this. This is going to be fun. I had to say, seeing the interview last time with Mike Tirico, that was a huge letdown in the sense that it was only 2 minutes and it was really lame. Like it wasn't interesting. He asked Mike a lot of softball questions. Not to say that Mike should be hounded with like intense questions like why did he fail with the Charlotte Hornets? Like for example, you can ask him a question: did you just sell the Hornets because you just realized you couldn't be a great GM? Obviously, I wouldn't be for asking those types of questions, but for God's sakes, you could ask him some fun questions like how does he feel about Anthony Edwards being called his son, for example, as a reference to saying Edwards' game is very similar to Michael's. I would have liked to hear those perspectives. What the fuck with this stupid questions like, hey, do you miss basketball? How long has it been since you touched the basketball, Michael? How long has it been? Blah, blah, blah. We know Michael misses basketball. Michael missing basketball is equivalent to a guy on crack missing his abilities to do crack, who's like in the slammer right now. Michael was a basketball addict. What a stupid question. It's like asking an alcoholic who's like on, who's going to AA meetings, do you miss drinking? Do you miss it? Like, to me, that was just stupid. And the capper of the interview was like, a friend just texted this to me and made me laugh, was like the part where Michael talked about his recent basketball activity, which was in which he had to hit a free throw for some rich guy's kids to show these kids that he's clutch, because this rich guy had told his kids about how great MJ was and all the stuff he did during the 90s. And so he gave MJ the ball in front of them, and he had to hit this free throw under pressure. He hit the free throw, and he got an emotional high off of it, kind of like like how you used to as a player when you hit clutch shots. And my friend remarked through text about that. Like this was like the unnecessary sequel to Space Jam that we never wanted. That story, and I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, that is very true. That we did not need that story at all, to be honest. But I'm not gonna knock Michael for taking that money, the $40 million. Anybody in that situation would do it, you know. And obviously, I don't feel bad for NBC. They're a $1 billion corporation, and like any corporation, they're corrupt. So anybody stealing money from them is perfectly fine with me. You know, not saying Michael's stealing, but just saying that he's getting money to basically do nothing other than being a mascot. If that's a role they're gonna have him in, and we're just gonna have like a series of just like 2 minute interviews every week at halftime about some random subject, then to me it's a big letdown. I'm hoping this is not the case. I'm hoping for a bigger role than this, than what we saw the other night. I'm just hoping the other night was just like a preview of what's to come. And it's going to segue to even a bigger role of seeing MJ on NBC. But that's all I had to say about this.